Hey there, you're right. In this video here, I'm now going to go on to exercise 9F, where we're going to learn about sketching straight lines using the x-axis and the y-axis intercepts. Now, what are they? What is an x and a y intercept? It refers to the coordinates. Okay, so coordinates, remember, has an x and a y value. It's the coordinates that specifically sit on the x-axis and the y-axis. There's two different points there. Okay, now here's the logic. When I sketch a straight line, say I'm just going to make it up here, y equals 3x minus 1. Can you see how this straight line, which I'm going to take a picture of, and I'm just going to draw it over here. I should have just drawn it on the actual page so you can see. But see this graph? That's a straight line, yeah? But this is your x-axis, and this is your y-axis. But every straight line you draw, it always has to cross through an x-axis and a y-axis. True? This is the x-intercept because it sits on the x-axis. Okay, that's the x-axis, so it sits on it. So on this x-axis, that straight line has to cross it once. And the other point is the y-axis. So this is the y-axis. It has to cross at the y-axis at least once as well, no matter which straight line you draw. So if I drew this straight line, see how it crosses the y-axis, then the x-axis. If I drew another straight line, let's say this way, same thing. X-axis, then it crosses y-axis. You see what I mean? Every time you draw a straight line, no matter how you draw it, you'll have to touch the x and the y-axis. With an exception of two, actually. The only time that you don't touch both is if you had a horizontal line, only touches the y-axis once. Or if you had a vertical line, it only touches the x-axis once as well. Okay? But regardless, you're always going to touch an x or a y-axis. Okay? So that means the coordinates on these axes are very special. Because you know the straight line, every time you have a straight line equation, it must touch the x-axis and the y-axis. But the coordinates on the x-axis and the y-axis are really special. And here, I'm hoping to illustrate a point for you. Let's see, if I asked you now, in your table, I want you to label the coordinates of this point. So that's on the x-axis, so it's an x-intercept. What would the coordinates of that point be? Have a think. Fill it over here. Hopefully you figured out it was 1, so moving to the right by 1, but you don't move up or down, so the y value is 0. Let's say I pick another point. Let's say I pick this one. This point, 3, right? If I asked you, what is the coordinates at this point? Hopefully you would say it's moving to the right by 3, but it doesn't move up or down, so the y value is 0. So this one is 3, 0 there. If I picked another point on the x-axis, let's say at -3, hopefully you also notice that this here, the coordinates here would be -3, 0. Now hopefully you're starting to see a pattern that every time you pick a coordinate on the x-axis, notice that the y value is always 0. And then that makes a lot of sense because on the x-axis, you're not moving up or down. So of course the y values are always going to be 0, 0, 0. So that means even if I drew a random straight line, let's say I drew a line like this. Okay, so I'll make it a bit straighter. Let's say that. If I asked you now, when it touches the x-axis, which is at this particular point, see, I don't know how far left it went. I don't know how far it's gone. But I do know that the y value has to be 0. I don't know what this is. Right? Unlike before, this one was clear. It was at 3. This one is at 1. This one is at -3. Well, where is this one? Kind of estimate it. You can kind of guess it. But you truly don't actually know what the x value is. But what you do know is the y value is 0. Now that's key. Can you write that down? So the knowledge is that for the x-intercept, notice y equals 0. Oh, maybe I should do it like this. Y is always 0. That's key. Okay? Then let's do the same thing now. Let's do another exploration. What about the y-axis value? So now we're going to look at the y-axis, which is this one. Let's say I picked a point up here. what would the coordinates of this specific point be? Hopefully, as you're thinking about it now, it should be 0 because you don't move left or right, but you've gone up by 4, so it should be 0, 4. Okay, so that one should be 0, 4. What if I picked another point and I said this one? Right at 1, that particular spot. Hopefully, you're now noticing it's 0, 1. So again, every time you draw a straight line, no matter how you draw it, it has to touch the x-axis, right? So this one touches the x-axis here, the y-axis, and it touches the y-axis here as well. Even though I don't know what the y values are, okay, I don't know what the y values are, I do know one thing. They all must equal to 0 for the x values. All the x values have to be 0 if you're going to touch the y-axis. So that's key. That's key. So here, if you're looking for the y-intercept, you know that x will always equal to 0, even though you may not know what the y values are. Or in this case, you don't know what the x values are. So far, so good. Just pause the video, have a think about what I just said there. Okay, every time you draw a straight line, there has to cross the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Now we're going to use that understanding to sketch this graph, 3x minus 6. Now how you have been doing it in 9b, this is what 9b would have asked you to do. They said use table of values. This is what you would have done. You would have had something like -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then you would use the rule. You'd say, well, what's the y value if x is -1? Well, y will equal to 3 times x, which is -1, because that's my x value. So if x equals -1, then it'll be 3 times -1 minus 6. That gives you -3 minus 6, -9. Right? What does that mean? That means this coordinate here is now, when x is -1, y is -9. Then you do the same for the next one. You then say, all right, what if x was equal to 0? Because that's on the x row, right? So if x equals 0, then the y value would be 3 times 0 minus 6. And that gives you 0 minus 6. And y is equal to -6. And what that means is, when x is 0, y is -6. Can you see what I'm doing there? Because this is x coordinate, this is y coordinate. And I'm just following the rule. Here, the next one, what if x was equal to 1? If x was equal to 1, then the y value will equal to 3 times 1 minus 6. And 3 take away 6 is -3. So that means your coordinates are, when x is 1, y is -3. Now you can see when I follow this pattern, you're eventually going to end up with 2, 0, and then 3. What is this? Plus 3, so 3. 3, 3. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 take away 6. Yep, cool. So how many coordinates did you end up with? You ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coordinates. You have 5 coordinates. And if you were to plot them, you would have to do what? -1, -9. So -1, -9 might be down here. So here's -1, -9. Then you would have to plot 0, -6. And 0, -6 is over here. 0, -6. Then you plot 1, -3. So 1, -3 is over here. That's 1, -3. Then you would plot 2, 0, which is over here. And then finally 3, 3. Then you use a ruler to sketch that straight line. Okay? Now, that took a very long time just to sketch this equation, which is y equals 3x minus 6. That took a long time to do. What I'm going to try to teach you now is to not use 5 points, but instead you only really need 2 points. Because when you draw a straight line, you think about it, you only need the starting point and an end point in order to connect the dots to make a straight line. So you only need 2, you don't need 5 points. Okay, so 9b was redundant in the sense that how many calculations you have to do, it takes too long. So how are we going to do it with just 2 points? Well, the 2 points we're going to use is find the x and find the y-intercept of each equation. Turn over the page, I'm going to show you how to do it. So this time we're going to sketch the same graph again, y equals 3x minus 6, but this time we're going to do it a bit more smarter. We are going to find the y-intercept. Now remember, in the notes before, y-intercept means the coordinates are going to touch the y-axis. Now what do you notice when it touches the y-axis? What is 0 again? Was it the x coordinate or the y coordinate? Have a think. Think about it. Hopefully you said x will be 0. Okay, because it will be 0. So for example, all these coordinates here, this will be 0, 3, 0, 2, 0, 1. So all the pattern is x will always equal to 0 for the y-intercept. Whereas the x-intercept, y, will always equal to 0. Okay, even though you don't know what y is or you don't know what x is. Cool, so let's use that knowledge to solve for our problem. So here, to find the y-intercept, we know that. So y-intercept, what do we know? We know that x has to be 0. So write that in. X equals 0. So if that's true, x equals 0, let's sub it into the equation we have here. Because the equation was y equals 3 times x. Now in this case, x is 0. Minus 6. And that gives me 0 take away 6 is negative 6. So what does that mean? That means that when x is 0, which is this one, the y is equal to negative 6. There we go. So where is 0, negative 6 on your graph? Here we go. This is 0, negative 6. That is the point. We've got 1 point for the graph y equals 3x minus 6. All I'm missing now is 1 more point for me to sketch the graph. And how you're going to do that? You're now going to find the x-intercept. How do you find the x-intercept again? Look at my notes. X-intercept occurs when y is equal to 0. So we know that y is equal to 0 if you're looking for the x-intercept. Now, if that's true, this is our equation. Y equals 3x minus 6. If y is going to equal to 0, that means it's going to be 0 equals 3 times x minus 6. And notice here that this is pretty much Chapter 7 exercise. Solving an equation. SAMDOB. So how do you solve for x? Same thing, do inverse operations. If this is a minus 6, get rid of subtraction addition first. So opposite of minus 6, add 6 on both sides. Negative 6 plus 6 cancels out. And you get 6 is equal to 3 times x. But I don't want 3 times x, I just want x. So how do you get rid of that times 3? Opposite of times is divide. Divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. That's why you get 1x is equal to 6 divided by 3, which is 2. Now what does this mean? What's x equals 2 mean? You just found out when x is 2, the y coordinate is 0. So where is that on the graph? Where's 2, 0? 2, 0 means 2 to the right, but you don't move up or down. And there we go. There's the connection. Oh, the line is a bit off, actually. I can't fix it. Let's do it like this. Does that work? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So that's how you sketch it. You don't need 5 points like you did over here. This one you needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to sketch the straight line. But notice here, you didn't have to do 5 calculations. You could have just done 2 calculations, but they do require algebra. This bit here, finding the x-intercept, is your algebra component. That a lot of students struggle. And that's what I meant by you have to learn Chapter 7 in preparation for next year in Year 9. This is the key part that a lot of students have no understanding. Okay, this is the bit. It's all it is sketching a straight line, and you need 2 coordinates. Let's do another one just so you get a feel of it. And this is the last example. Say I want you to sketch y equals 2x minus 8. Okay, so if I want you to sketch this graph, you're going to find 2 points. What were the 2 key points? Y-intercept and x-intercept. Now let's start off with the notes. To find the y-intercept, we know that. What do we know? So the y-intercept means on the y-axis, all these coordinates here, what do they all have in common? So have a think. This one would be 0, negative 1. This one's 0, negative 2. This one's 0, negative 3. So hopefully you picked up x is always going to be 0 even though you don't know what y is. So if that's true, you're then going to sub x equals 0. The 0 you're going to sub into the equation. So that gives you now y is equal to 2 times 0 minus 8. Y is equal to 0 minus 8, negative 8. And what does this mean? This just means when x is 0, you worked out the y value to be 0, negative 8. So where's 0, negative 8 on this graph? Here it is. That's 0, negative 8. You got 1 point. You only need one more to sketch a straight line. So where are you going to get that from? Finding the x-intercept. Now, x-axis intercept just means a coordinate on this line here. But notice the pattern that every time you pick a coordinate on this line, this one will be 1, 0, this one will be 2, 0, this one will be 3, 0. There's a pattern. And the pattern is, I don't know what x is, but I know the y value is going to be 0. Now, if y is going to be 0, then the equation should be 0 is equal to 2x minus 8. And you're back to chapter 7, Sam Dobb. Your job is to solve for x. So here we say add 8 on both sides. Negative 8 plus 8 cancels out. 8 is equal to 2 times x, but we don't want 2 times x. We just want x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 cancels out. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. What does this mean? This means when x is 4, the y coordinate is 0. Because that's what you did before, yeah? You said y is equal to 0. That's what you're using. So if that's true, where is 4, 0? Hopefully you can see on the graph, 4, 0 is right here. 4, 0. And now that you got 2 points, you can now sketch a straight line. Make sure to use a ruler. Okay? So you can see here, this method is much quicker than 9b. 9b required you to fill out a table of values and then plot the coordinates. Here I only found using algebra 2 intercepts, and then I was able to sketch the graph. That's what I want you to do for this session, is for you to practice finding x and y intercepts. Okay? Watch my other videos from previous years if you want more examples, but that concludes today's lesson.